last but not least, Gert de Tant, who works with our own Davon, who's soon becoming the mascot of the community, especially the crossover digiNEB, digital smart communities and all the rest of them. Yes. And Gert is the CEO of a company as well as the CTO of the one that they have founded together with Davor. So the stuff that Davor's been doing, or rather the two of you have been doing, really very much joins just two aspects together. So it's fantastic that you're able to be with us. So please welcome Gert de Tant.
Hello. Well, I'm the last one standing between dinner, so just wanted to leave one, disclaimer. I consider myself as a plumber, so really as an architect, more as a plumber. So here as a humble plumber, but then a plumber for David. Why do we're a company, and together with that, we do a lot of things, but especially in the smart citizen communities. And why do we do that? Yeah, we notice that a lot of citizen communities have a lot of problems to tackle. A lot of issues that are out there. The population is aging. We have a problem in education. We have a problem in mobility. We have a problem in climate change. So a lot of challenges. We think that technology could help go into solutions. It's not the solution, but it would help. But therefore, data will be an important aspect. And everybody says cities are sitting on a pile of data, but often that data is not accessible, it's not interoperable. Those are the issues that we notice, and that's where we want to make a difference. And therefore, this is what we consider quite important, is quadruple helix. These solutions is not created, so not by one company, it's created by a bunch of companies, together with cities, government in different levels, from European, global, until the lowest level, and especially also research institutes. We work very closely with the research institutes to get new research, new innovation in, and to try out these things into the cities and the communities. And of course, also the citizens play their part. And if we have a risk that we are creating a new challenge, and that's actually the digitalization that we don't take into account everybody. So that's a big risk that we need to tackle together with of course, the communities and the cities. We're on the right side, and we're creating solutions. The important aspect here is I don't believe there's one company that can solve everything. It will be a lot of companies, and there need to be interoperability between all these companies and these different solutions. Where did we start with our projects? Actually, we got 3 cities that were that said, okay, let's do this together. Let's just try this. And actually, one of the CEOs of Bruges said, it's 70% knowledge, 30% guts. We need to do it. So they gave us a contract for 20 years with about 30 million budget to try out this stuff and to actually build it for the 3 cities. So the 3 cities are running on the same platform, completely open source. It's completely interoperable, and with a bunch of companies working together to create the solutions for the cities. So it's really focused on the smart city goals and the SDGs. And one of the key requirements is it needs to be cost shared. And one of the things that cities notice is that companies are rebuilding the same thing again and again for different cities. So they actually want to have, if there is one sensor that works quite well and solves a problem, then all the cities should benefit from this. And it should not be rebuilt again and again. It should enable an ecosystem, so there should not one company be left out. So if some company has cool algorithm for cool solution, they just come in and they can deploy it, or they can deploy it on our platform or their platform and interoperable with it. And it could be very scalable. And scalable is not only upscale, also downscale. Because they will try out stuff, they will try new things, and sometimes it doesn't work. Then you need to scale down. So we need to be able to scale in both directions, and of course the security is key. I don't know if there are in other countries, but a lot of cities in Belgium got hacked the last few months. It was all over the newspaper, so security is even more right now. Actually, the platform, the cities won actually a prize in the Smart City World Congress with the platform. So they won the prize from methodologies, so they were very happy. We were at the stage there. We believe that why they won it was really the cost sharing and the collaboration between the cities. And it's really that enables that. How do we look at it? It's actually, this is how we see the digital twins in cities. We are actually sitting here in the urban IoT platform, and we're actually the ones that are interoperability and sharing the data across all the different solutions. But you need a physical city, you need something to measure. Otherwise, it's quite really virtual. You need a network, and the network needs to be operated. Somebody needs to do that. Across all the silos, we build our solution and we drop it all the data. We get the data, or it's a decentralized storage, or it's coming on our platform. And on top of that, we are building different solutions. Could be digital twins, could be other things. What's in name, but a lot of different solutions. I have some use cases that we have built that I can showcase later on. The key principles of building the platform was firstly to be open standards. We have the European and different UN initiatives created open standards. The platform needs to adhere to these standards. So every solution that comes into the platform needs to follow these standards. So interoperability is key. We need to be secure. Needs to have an ecosystem, and also decentralization is very important. We have a lot of other organizations that are delivering data. We need to be able to access the data, but it doesn't always have to be transferred. So sometimes your algorithm also needs to transfer to those parts. We need to have shared data models, and for us, very important, the city is the owner of the data, so never the companies. It's always the city where the data is created that keeps the ownership, and they can control what happens with the data. So nobody else, except the city and the citizens, decide what happens with the data. It needs to be scalable, and open source was very important. And we have quite some luck in the Flanders part, is that from the Flanders initiative, there is actually already what you call sometimes in architecture as a bouwmeester, somebody that gives you rules. We have that for open cities. They're actually an open city architecture that was built by the Flemish government that actually guides the cities in how to build these platforms, how to enable interoperability, and how to have analytics and data inside your cities. It's quite heavily built on the European parts, but it was taken together and actually fed through the cities as things that they could ask the companies. One of the things, for example, is that you need to provide your data in NGSIL, which is the encrypting standards. And those are all the things that were pretty important to us. And next to that, by the way, we call it a donut. You know, there was some circles already in the bowels. We called it actually a filled donut. It was a word for it. No, it was always filled. The data is in the center. Some things were added by the cities. They wanted to have something like pay per use. They want to have pay for what they're using, not for a license fee. They want to actually pay for what they're using. Need to be real-time processing. We need also have bidirectional communication. So with some of the sensors, we also want to feed back the information and add connections. We had a lot of data requirements that need to be interoperable, the FAIR principles to be there. In Belgium, we have the Oslo, and that's also a very important aspect. So we have these data models, which are European, but you always have the specific context. And in Belgium, it's called the Oslo, the Open Standards for Legal Organizations. There are data models that are actually developed in Flanders for air quality, for vehicles, for everything. They need to be used. Cities like it. We translated those models, and we had a lot of links with NGSILD, so we also translated models to that. And next to that, so on the slide, but we also meant, for example, to make a translation to DTDL, the digital twin definition language. The big advantage, since we are on linked data, can really translate those data sets automatically. So we really have a big advantage there that if somebody wants the data in their format, it's quite easily done. They can just ask a question and they will get the data in their format with their presence. This is the federation part, so that there are different donuts. Every organization will have a data donut and end-to-end drop in some way or another. So federation is key. These are some of the cases that we built. This is the mobility data case. It's actually a case where traffic lights are talking to the vehicles, especially priority vehicles. They will send their ETA to every traffic light in the neighborhood, so they know when that vehicle is arriving at the traffic light, that they will have a higher chance on green. What we do is actually capture all that data, translate it to NGS ID, and provide it to every other use case that wants it. So this is a very specific use case. What we provide the data to everybody else. So they can actually build systems for the vehicles themselves, and showcase there will be an emergency vehicle approaching to the traffic lights, or the traffic light will be green in this amount of seconds. And actually everybody else who wants to do something with it, we provide the data to them. And they can actually access it. With that, of course, an agreement with NEB welfare organization. Another thing is that in these streets in Bruges, we are monitoring crowd. We count how many people are there at a certain point in time. We actually had a case where there were 5 types of sensors. There was one sensor that actually kept which sends radio signals through a crowd and monitors the amount of crowd without any measurement of cell phones or something like that. It's just a radio beam that goes through the crowds. You can detect how many people there are without any personalized thing. Well, from that data, we can now actually predict how many people there will be there at a certain point, what the effect of events is, what the effect of rain is on people in a certain area. One of the problems we had, because it was in Bruges, was that they still have carriages with horses. And it's still at the point of time where the sensors went wrong on that, but now we can measure the amount of horses that pass by every day. So it's but it's really now also predicting the amount of people in that case. Also, that data is then fed to, for example, the people that have local shops, and they know how many people we predict as the moment of day, so they can decide what they want to do with it. This is another case which actually we built for the city of Antwerp. It's what we call the Smart to Antwerp app. It's actually using all the data of all the steps, bikes, measurements of traffic that we can do. And we have a multimodal application. So people, when they want to go to Antwerp, they can actually give in their home address and where they want to be in Antwerp, and we want the best route, but multimodal will be given to them. So not only take your car to that point and it will take you so long, but take your car to that parking spot, take a bike from there, or take a train from there and go in that way. We were possible to do that because we have all the data of all mobility in Antwerp. So we have every step, every car share, all their data is shared with us. It's actually they're obliged for everybody who wants to be solvable in this. There's another case which we do now in Michela and in Leuven. It's called Rain Brain, and we capture all the data there is about water. And we predict flooding, because we have a very low country. The Netherlands was much lower even, but we have also very low, and we have a lot of water. And we are really capturing all the pluviometers, so all the rain, but also all the water levels. Even if people have their own home sensors, we can detect it, and we can board them, and we predict where the flooding is. We are now having a new project where we also include social media, so that when people are complaining, it's again flooding in my backyard, we also capture that data and see what we can do with that data to really have a even more detailed map about where we see floodings. And we try to, of course, predict that. But also sewering data is in there, so we have a lot of things now. And also water quality of the area. So we know the quality of the water at each level right now. So it's a lot of data that we're capturing there. Also collaboration with a lot of organizations that are building these algorithms. Because that's an important thing. We are, as I said, the plumbers. So we know how to have this data everywhere, but we don't know anything about water, like how water is active or fluids, we don't know. So people with knowledge of those algorithms, we provided the data, and they deal with the algorithms, we run those algorithms with data. And that's actually with every case, also the case about crowds, is the same thing. This is a street in Bruges, which is very quiet, when in the mornings it's flooded with cars. Big problem, because that's what Waze does. They send people through there, because this road is quite congested. That's actually the road they should take, but that's what they do. And they asked, what can we do about it? If you ask a study, but it says study agency, they will study for 3 months and they will come with a perfect solution. But for only this case. Actually, we built it together with a company called Seika and also with IMEC. We built an algorithm to actually see what we could do here. So we had different scenarios, for example, close this street or close this street or make this eat one direction to make sure that the cars wouldn't pass through that NEB anymore. And we tried it out. We put these temporary blocks over there to see we saw if the algorithm worked or not. We adapted in that way, but now we can do it constantly. So we monitor it every day, every quarter of an hour, go on every amount of cars. And we monitor it constantly. We also have the data from those mobility applications. So we bought the data there. Then we really do it for the complete city of Bruges now, and doing this mobility. So that's a mobility digital twin that was built on top of all the data that we have. This is Leuven, and Leuven is a city which has a lot of students. And what the students do as they accept of studying, that's going out. So they party, and they party quite heavily in the central city of the market, and that's fine. Everybody goes there, there are a lot of bars, it's fun. But when they finish partying, they go to a street where a lot of people live with children, and they tend not to always be that quiet. But there was a lot of complaints about nightly noise. What's the problem with nightly noise is that it's very subjective. What is nightly noise? Well, I find disturbing, maybe somebody else doesn't find disturbing. So what we actually did was we wanted to measure it subjectively and objectively. So we put these sensors in the street. These are 3D sound sensors. They capture every second about 90 values. And we created an app for the citizens to indicate if they had any disturbances. And we measure now every the complete night and actually the complete day if there are too much noise. And what we do is actually we project messages on the street and we steer the street lights. So we can dim or we can brighten the street lights. So we indicate to the students that they are disturbing, that people are complaining about. And first we were very afraid. We wanted to try it out because we thought maybe they will see it as a game. But actually it works quite well. So once they get their attention, okay, somebody is disturbed by me, actually that's to go quiet. So maybe, but we are not watching. Because what we do is our sound sensor, we never get in the sound. So we never get any messages in, we only know that it's a human sound and it's about a certain pitch level. So we get about 90 values, but not the corny, but the 90 values. And we can detect it's human noise and it's about a certain threshold and a certain time. and then we turn out the lights. And we put these messages on the street. This is why it's so, Kim is still sleeping and Kim is 6 years old. That's what we do right now. What we also can do, if the noise keeps going, we can now alert the local police. That's another thing we can do. Until now we bring it, but it's a possibility, and it works quite well. But it's really a combination between somebody who put the sound sensor there, the detection of the algorithm, and detecting what human sound is, and the street lightify, and being able to turn those on the street lights. What we now noticed is that it's not only the students that keep the pickle up at night, it's actually the priority because the ones with sirens, they are very disturbing at night. So we capture also that sound. We know that they are,
I'm not saying that you said that nice. I
Well,
saw what that.
I don't know why my heart, but it's quite loud.
Okay.
Yeah, they have to be really singing. Yeah, and although it's hard to do it by one person, so you have to be with a bunch.
That's true.
But we have the complete graph, and now we can also predict when there will be noise. So we notice that rain has a big effect. And we know in the weekends it's at 1 p.m. and it's at 5 p.m. and in the weeknights it's about at 3 a.m. It's at there. The things that we notice. No, it's actually. So like this. Yeah, but that's what we tried. Now, what's also important is we have. For now, we are also detecting the, for example, the silence and what we can do about that. But that data is also shared with the audience. So now we give that data to the University of Leuven, and they are actually on the sound data, trying new algorithms, the picture algorithms, and things like that. So it is that needing to. And that's a clip I wanted to present.